and welcome to another fabulous episode of Thyroid Refresh TV, a podcast dedicated to helping you live a thyroid-friendly and healthy lifestyle. We're so glad to be back with you again. I'm Danna Bowman.
And I'm Ginny Mahar, and we are the dynamic duo behind Thyroid Refresh and Thyroid 30. And we are so thrilled to be here today with Dr. Kyrin Dunston to talk about one of the most common frustrations that we deal with as thyroid patients. Dry, itchy skin. What's the deal? What's the link? And what can we do about it? So welcome, Dr. Kyrin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we jump in, because I too myself have really itchy skin, so I can't wait to dive in. I want to tell a little bit about to everybody a little bit about you. So Dr. Kyrin Dunston helps women 40 to 60 lose weight, regain energy, balance their hormones and their moods, feel sexy and confident, look great, and master midlife. Leading by example, she lost 100 pounds and healed herself from chronic disease using natural treatments. And she hosts her Brilliant Health Revolution podcast, her Brilliant Health Secrets YouTube channel, and the Stop the Menopause Madness Summit. Wow, you're a busy lady. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Well, dry skin is one of those complaints we hear a lot about from our community, but we don't hear it addressed that much by a lot of the experts, and we talk to so many experts. So we're excited to dive into this with you, and so you can bring your wealth of knowledge on this topic to our thyroid community. But before we dive into that, we'd love to know a little bit more about you. You started out as an MD with a gynecology practice, is that right?
Right. I'm so board certified OBGYN. I practiced for many years. I still am board certified, but I retired from OBGYN over 10 years ago now, because it really wasn't the answer to my health problems. I weighed 243 pounds. I had chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, low thyroid, but misdiagnosed by mainstream tests, which you probably talk about a lot on your show, is one of my favorite topics, because there's so many women out there with the classic symptoms, including dry skin, weight gain, constipation, all kinds, the whole list. And they're told repeatedly that their labs are quote unquote normal and they don't have a thyroid problem, which is not true. They just haven't had the right tests and haven't had them read the right way. So that was me. And then when I discovered a root cause resolution approach, a holistic approach, I got myself better. I healed, lost 100 pounds, and I really knew that mainstream medicine was not the way to help people get healthy. That's not what it's about. And so I actually retired from OBGYN and have practiced holistic care for women for over a decade now.
I love that you have that story. And, it's very common. Lots of the people that we have on the show got into medicine and changed what they were doing, or pivoted, shall we say, to what they're currently doing because of their own health issues. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm ultimately a healer. I've been a healer in many lifetimes. This isn't my first. And so that's my journey and my path. And so I'm always seeking, how can I help myself and others to heal? So it's not like I was born to be a doctor. When you're a born healer, you're on the path. You're always looking for the next tool or next knowledge that you need to acquire to help others. And so I think everyone, all of us who evolved from a traditional mainstream MD or DO, we have that healing path, and we just found more tools to help people. And so it's not the end of our journey.
Oh my gosh, goosebumps. I love that way of putting it and looking at it. And it seems like an experience that a lot of people have had in conventional medicine, where it's like, I want to expand more and explore some other avenues here that I feel like I can't explore in this model. And so very cool that you were able to, just give yourself that permission to say, look, I'm not going to define myself under this little, umbrella. I'm going to look at myself in the bigger picture as a healer.
And how can I best serve?
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
well, I won't say it comes easily because, your whole life you want to be the MD and you train for the MD and you go to school for many, many years and you pay a lot of money. So there's a lot of sacrifice involved with it. And you think, at least I thought that was going to be the pinnacle of healing. But when I couldn't heal my own health problems, I had to look around and go, something's not right. So I think that it's pain that pushes you to find this larger purpose. And everyone, all the physicians you talk to who have been on this same path, they tell you the same story, that they had health challenges they couldn't solve or a loved one did. So it's not, it's not like, oh, I think this is great. I think I'll look into this.
Right.
Life is wonderful. It's really through pain that this happens.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why it's so amazing, because that wasn't an easy path for you. That's, and it's so relatable. I think for so many of us, no matter what path we take, there are those points where we're just called to shift somehow. And well, one of the tips that we always give our audience when they are running into the common frustration of trying to find a doctor to work with is to look for those practitioners in your area, if you can, who have a thyroid story of their own. So I know you mentioned that you had undiagnosed thyroid issues or misdiagnosed.
Not diagnosed. They were not. Right. So I knew something was wrong, right? I was tired all the time. I had dry skin. My hair was falling out and thinning. I had brittle nails, that's a sign of low thyroid also. I had weight gain. I was obese. I had pain in my body. I had anxiety, crazy anxiety, and depression also, among other things. And so I had the constipation, classic symptoms of hypo or low thyroid. So I'd say, okay, there's got to be something wrong with my thyroid. I would run the standard thyroid tests, and I couldn't wait till they'd come back. And then I would look at them and I go, oh, they're normal. They're normal every time. I checked my thyroid at least 10 times and it was normal. I would go to my internist and I'd say, something's got to be wrong. Look at me. She'd say, okay, we'll run tests. She would run the standard thyroid test. And she'd say, well, they're normal, Kyrin. And I really got to this place where I thought I was crazy, because clearly there was something wrong with me. I felt like I was dying. I looked 20 years older than I was, but all my labs came back normal, quote unquote. So this was the problem. And this is the problem for 80% of women walking around who have classic symptoms of low thyroid, whose doctors have done the labs and tell them, oh, your labs are normal, you're fine. And they're thinking, no, I'm not. I know something's wrong. We know our bodies. We know how we should feel in our own skin. We are the experts on ourselves. So I just want everyone listening to hear this, and don't take your labs are normal as the answer when you know something's wrong. It just means you haven't asked the right question, you haven't done the right test, or you haven't read it the right way. So like you said earlier, you just want to look for a practitioner who knows and understands how to diagnose these things properly. And so that's eventually what I did.
Okay. Yeah, great advice. All right, why don't we dive into dry skin? This is something that we get asked about a lot. And yeah, it's been hard to find experts who really know a ton about this and how, just the practical tools of why does this happen? What can we do about it? How is it correlated with thyroid? So maybe we should start there. Like, can we talk about dry skin and other skin issues that are common complaints for thyroid patients, and what is the link there? How does our thyroid affect our skin health so much?
Right. So skin, hair, and nails all fall in the same category for me. And I really call them the canary in the coal mine. So it would be nice if, we want a very simplistic view of our health, that thyroid is the only thing that can cause dry skin. Therefore, if you have dry skin, you have low thyroid, and you fix the low thyroid and fixes your dry skin. But it doesn't work that way, right? Every symptom in our body, every system has multiple inputs into it. I'll say that there are four main inputs into every system. So there's hormonal balance, there's toxicity and inflammation, that's one, and then nutritional inputs, and then mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic inputs. So your skin is no different. It takes information from hormones, which are the communicators in the body, and all the skin cells, hair follicles, and nail beds that create your fingernails are programmed by your hormones to know how to function. They also look at the toxic milieu in the body and the inflammatory status, and they take information from that. They also can only undergo repair mechanisms and restoration with the proper nutrient input. So they're looking at that. And then there's this energetic body that we have that's larger than we are, that has these energy meridians that acupuncturists access that flow through us, that isn't something you can detect with your five senses, but is a real thing. And so if the thoughts you're thinking are negative and they're based on beliefs that are negative, and the feelings you're feeling are generally negative, well, that's going to affect this energetic body that is the framework of the physical body. So it's multifactorial. So getting to dry skin, your thyroid is like your battery. It's what couples your fuel, and you have two fuels, sugar and fat are your two fuels that you can burn in your body to make energy, right? And energy, if you remember from high school science, is ATP. Right? ATP is the currency of energy. It's like dollar bills. So your cells in the mitochondria, I hope I'm not getting too technical, they are the powerhouses of your cells. They're what make energy. So they're they're your money makers, right? So just like you have a job, you go to work to make dollar bills to spend on your rent and buy food, your body takes fat and sugar, which everything you eat has some degree of fat and sugar, and then puts it through the mitochondria moneymaker and makes it into ATP, which you can then spend to bat an eyelash, think a thought, digest food, build a bone, right? Or heal your skin or not. So your thyroid is the main overseer of this activity. It's like the power broker. But when your thyroid is functioning low, it's not sending the signals to all your cells. Your hormones are chemicals that are dispersed from one organ through the bloodstream to all your organs and cells to tell them how to function. And your thyroid is the governess of the metabolic rate. So she is the governess of how fast will you turn fat and sugar into fuel. This is what determines how fast your cells can heal or not heal, because if they don't have fuel, they can't heal. You know, it takes energy for your body to have nice, thick, elastic skin with good collagen and elastin and good moisture, right? And it takes lots of work to do that. So your thyroid, because it regulates, it's the energy power broker. If you don't have the right energy creation happening in your cells, including in your skin cells, well, then your cells don't have the ability to repair that collagen as it's breaking down, because gravity's pulling on it every day, breaking it down. Or if you have, say, essential fatty acid deficiency, so you're not getting enough of the fatty nutrients, which all our cells are coated in these healthy fats. They kind of nestle like little C's is what they look like all around our cells. And it's also part of what keeps our skin cells healthy, supple, moisturized, and communicating properly and receiving communication from hormones and the rest of the body. So if we don't have that, your skin then will start to have sagging, and it will start to have wrinkling, and it will start to have low luster and be dry. This is the first thing I think of when I hear dry skin, always, is essential fatty acids. So it could be nutrient inputs, but then coupled with, okay, you're not getting enough essential fatty acids because you heard fat was bad. So you eat a low-fat diet, which is one of the worst things you can do. And so you're not getting, or you don't like fish, which is where a lot of our fatty acids come from that are healthy. And so you're deficient, and you can get such bad fatty acid deficiency. You can get these bumps on the back of your arm, which isn't necessarily a hallmark of thyroid, but it's something that people can check for to know, oh, is essential fatty acid deficiency part of my dry skin problem? Although you have to have pretty bad EFA deficiency to get those bumps on the back of your arm. So the thyroid is involved with all aspects of really energy production and usage in all areas of your body. So when you look at the skin, you're kind of looking at a microcosm, and it's a sign something's wrong here. The body doesn't have the ability to maintain the upkeep, right? So your house, when you don't paint it because you don't have energy, because your health isn't great and you don't feel good, and you live there for 30 years or 10 years, whatever, paint's going to start peeling and looking pretty dry on the outside, right? It's the same with your skin. It takes energy to keep it up. And when you don't have that energy, you get that lackluster appearance. So that would kind of be the general overview of the why.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I have questions.
Yeah.
So the EFA, how do you resolve that? Is that just a matter of like taking fish oil, or?
Well, I prefer for people to eat a whole food diet that is balanced and has lots of essential fatty acids in it, whether it's from fish or avocados or some of these healthy fats, olive oil, olives, things like that. That's my preference, is for people to get them from whole foods, because this idea of, oh, I just need some fish oil supplements. Well, yeah, that can help, but ultimately you got this way because you're living out of balance with nature and what your body's telling you it needs. And so the goal for me is to recouple the communication for you with your body. I'm not the authority on your body. You are, but you just stop listening to your body. And so your body's talking to you all the time. Like the fact that when we have dry skin, we think, because we see commercials all day, every day, oh, I need this moisturizer. I don't have the right moisturizer. I just need the right moisturizer. Wrong. That's not what your body's telling you. It's telling you something's wrong inside. I'm not getting what I need. This is why I have dry skin. This is why I have low thyroid. Pay attention to what's going on, what lifestyle inputs you're having. So I'd start with the diet. But in the short term, can you take omega supplements to help with your fatty acids? Sure, you can. Some people might need 1 or 2 grams a day, but some people might need 4 or 8 or more a day. You know, your cells weren't built in a day. So sometimes it can take some high doses for prolonged periods, months or even a year or so, to replace all those bad fats from the outside of your cells and in your skin, which are hydrogenated fats, trans fats, these non-C fats that they don't nestle together well. So some look like Z's and they disrupt the whole pattern of the fats around your cells. So you've got to displace those. So, you know, although you can't see this, it's kind of like if you've got a lot of bad friends who don't support you in your life. You know, they're never there when you're sick or you need someone to help take care of your cat or whatever. They're just not there for you. Well, it takes you a while to get rid of all the bad friends and get some good ones in there who are going to be supportive. It just doesn't happen in one day. You just don't go home and go, all right, y'all are not my friends anymore, and you all are my friends. So it's the same with the fats in your body. It's a process. So you go through a process of looking at, where am I getting the bad fats? Could it be in my cosmetics, my toiletries, the foods I'm eating? And then where am I not getting good fats from? What foods can I add, and maybe supplementing? And then over time, your body will replace with the healthy fats.
Okay. Well, I so appreciate that you pointed out too, just, you know, looking for that external solution. Sometimes we really need to flip that and start looking at the internal solution. And I kind of want to go back a little bit further into, you know, all the different factors you were saying that could be involved in having concurrent thyroid and dry skin issues. There's so many different things it could be. It could be hormonal or mitochondrial or a nutrient issue, or even energetic, emotional, spiritual issues. I mean, it's this whole system that's all connected, right? So I guess my question is, where do you start when someone comes to you and you're trying to figure out where to begin with helping them solve their concurrent thyroid related skin issues? How do you know where to begin?
Yeah. So for me, I always start with hormones because they are the communicators in the body. I should say neuroendocrine, so nervous system and hormones, neuroendocrine system, because they're the communicators in the body. And the cells in your body don't know what to do when they don't have the proper instruction. Communication is instruction. So if the hormones aren't online at the right levels, it's like the kids in school with a substitute teacher who doesn't have the lesson plan. And the kids are just throwing spitballs and running around and doing whatever they want. So your cells become totally dysregulated the same way when there's no one home. So I start with looking at the hormones. Now, in particular, thyroid is one of the main metabolic drivers. So it is one of the hormones that I always look at first, along with insulin, cortisol, DHEA, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Those are your 7 major metabolic hormones. And so thyroid is a cause and it's an effect. And so that complicates the picture a little. But I think this is such an important conversation because I hear a lot of people who have the impression that they want the answer of what's the one thing that's wrong. That's the reason why everything's wrong with me. And they think it's a thyroid problem because they have the symptoms. And then when they get a diagnosis, it's kind of like we can become overly fixated on that. But it's like saying that the reason, that's not even a good analogy. So let me not go there. It's never the whole answer is the bottom line. It's a very complex, intricate system. So I do start by looking at the thyroid, what's it doing, what's it not doing? But then the next question is why? And so in the hormones, so insulin, thyroid, and cortisol, I call them the 3 musketeers. They're like best friends and they all hang out together and they all affect each other, right? When your best friend is having a crappy day, it makes your day bad. It's the same with those 3. So in particular, cortisol, most everybody has a cortisol problem. They don't know they do because their doctor doesn't talk to them about it because they don't know about it. They don't know that it's a thing unless you have a disease, because that's what we're taught in medical school. It's not their fault. That's what we're taught. But most everyone has a cortisol problem. Why? It's our stress hormone. Are we under stress? A little bit right now. Everybody is.
Yeah.
So everyone has a cortisol problem that's undiagnosed for most of us, unless you've done a salivary cortisol test and collected saliva morning, noon, afternoon, midnight, and you know what's going on. And that means it's pulling on your thyroid, because when cortisol is having a problem, it's pulling on your thyroid. And a lot of people have insulin problems too. Sure, they may not be diabetic overtly. Most doctors know how to diagnose that, and people know if they have that. But there are, I think in America, it's like 40 million people have undiagnosed pre-diabetes. So some form of insulin dysregulation where they're not diabetic. Their doctor says they're fine, but they're not, because their insulin's not functioning optimally. They have too much sugar in their body, which is inflammatory. And so that is every day pulling on the thyroid. And I've seen some people, just by changing what they eat and getting rid of the sugars and the carbs, totally fix their thyroid, because their insulin now is not stressed out and their cortisol is not stressed out. And the body goes, oh, that's what I was trying to tell you. Stop eating those ding dongs and the bread and the pasta and the oatmeal and all the things that we eat every day. So I always start with hormones, and then the sex hormones actually will directly affect these as well. So I start there, and maybe it's because I'm an OBGYN, but I do really think philosophically, these are communicators, and we've got to have good communication or our relationships don't work also in our body. And then I go to toxicity, which equals inflammation. So a lot of our toxicity comes from our gut, which most people don't know about. They say, well, I don't have any gut problems. Yeah, but you got inflammation in your gut. We just do, because we're eating food that is not organic, and we're getting pesticides and herbicides and hormones and all this crap, frankly, in the food that we eat, in the water that we drink. We're eating artificial chemicals, preservatives, flavorings, colorings, processed food. So our guts are just kind of a mess. Plus, we don't breathe before we eat, and we don't chew our food till it's a liquid 30 or 40 times. And so we're not breaking it down. So we have all these stomach problems going on, even if we don't have symptoms, which creates an inflammation and toxicity. And then we've got all the toxins coming from outside of us, right? Whether it's heavy metals in vaccines that we get, or silver fillings that we have, and we get mercury or lead and mercury in our water, or the air that we breathe, the toiletries that we use, all the products. And I don't want to freak anyone out, but 85,000 new chemicals introduced into the environment since 1950. The average person has traces of 400 toxic chemicals in her body. So we're just inundated in this sea of toxins. We doctors, you ask us, do we need to detox? And we tell you no, because that's what we're taught. But now I know that's not true. And our body's ability to get rid of these toxins is just overwrought, in particular for the thyroid. So it takes 4 iodine molecules per thyroid hormone molecule. It needs 4 iodine. Well, in the periodic chart of the elements, remember from high school, those are halides, iodine. And so is chlorine, bromine, fluoride. So that means that any of those can displace iodine in your body, in your thyroid gland, right? So chlorine in your water, we have chlorinated water. If you're not filtering out the chlorine, it's displacing iodine from your thyroid hormone. Fluoride, we have fluorinated water. Fluoride has been shown to be a neurotoxin, but yet it's still in our toothpaste, in our water. We get dental treatments with it. At least I don't, but some people still do because they're not aware. Bromine is used as an anti-caking agent in flour products. And sometimes it's at such low levels, they don't have to list it as an ingredient. So you're eating baked goods, you're getting bromine. So all of these chemicals come in and displace iodine, which we're deficient in. We don't get enough because it comes from the sea and sea vegetables, and we don't eat enough of that. And there's this toxicity happening. So part of healing the thyroid is you got to detox these things, sometimes by using high doses of iodine to get that crap out. And you can get really sick when your body starts to release all that fluoride, chlorine, bromine. It can be very toxic. So that's where I go next, is that toxicity level, decreasing the inflammation, and then the nutritional inputs. So thyroid needs enough iodine. You can do tests to see, do you have enough? But it's not an easy test necessarily, because you can't just draw blood and go, oh, what's your iodine level? It's sometimes an indirect measure of, what is your iodine? How much are you excreting now? If we give you a load, how much do you hold on to? And that's kind of an indirect indicator. So there's no great test for it when you see many different tests, but it can be done. And then do you have enough selenium, zinc, all these other cofactor nutrients that are important, and amino acids, which are the backbone of your thyroid hormone. And then the mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic part is important too. So when you think about it, your thyroid with the energy body is in your 5th chakra, which is in your throat chakra. And that has to do with speaking your truth. It could be literally speaking your truth, and it could be figuratively, like being who you really want to be. Are you being authentic? Are you saying what you want to say in this life? Are you in a job that is expressing who you really are? Are you expressing who you are or not? Are there things that you need to say to certain people that you haven't said? So I find that, thyroid problems are much more common in women than in men. And I think that part of the reason why is because historically we have been told to not speak our truth, not be authentic, not be too loud, pushy, aggressive, or any of these things. Otherwise we're a, and so there's a lot of self-censorship that we are indoctrinated into as little girls that becomes second nature. Like how I look without makeup is not acceptable. I have to wear makeup. I mean, there's just, the list is so long of how inauthentic we are. And it's so indoctrinated in our culture that it's impossible to see sometimes, unless you're intentional about it. So I have women who have thyroid problems start journaling about their truth and authenticity and try to be more authentic. I have them do toning exercises because it means there's an energy blockage. And so the vocal cords have that unique ability. You can pass air through and you can tone. And that sometimes singing is a form of toning, but sometimes just toning on a specific note can help to release these blockages. So that's like the big overview. I know it's a lot. I don't want anyone to be overwhelmed. I'm just trying to give the big overview. But that's really how I look at it.
I think it's so important.
Wow.
Thank you for explaining that. It's so important to understand the complexities, and you did explain it, I think, in a really understandable way. And it also just highlights, I think, for our listeners, the importance of finding a practitioner you can work with who has this whole health understanding and who understands how all these pieces fit together, who isn't going to just ignore things like, our emotional well-being, for example. And I think it's really, really helpful to know. So find someone you can work with, and also someone who can help you test, not just guess, because the trap so many of us fall into, as we sort of touched on earlier, is that I'm going to, just follow all these Instagram accounts and, so somebody says this supplement is the one that will cure all my troubles. And it just, if anybody says that, you should unfollow their account. It doesn't exist. It's a whole health thing, and it is complex. So it's not a do it yourself. And really, it's just so refreshing to hear from someone like you who has this very broad width of understanding and depth of understanding of the whole shebang.
And
that's a big one.
It is. And on top of that, I just want to ask the question, because you just provided us with this whole health look at how you work with patients and how you might determine their skin issues and things. But let me just ask the one question: dry skin. Is there something specific that you notice, that you've seen, that correlates to people with thyroid issues? What is the underlying cause of the dry skin? Is there any one thing or a couple things?
I don't know if you're asking me if there's one solution or one cause.
What's one cause, just once, is there something specific, because I definitely have dry skin and I've had it my whole life, so, and of course I didn't get diagnosed with thyroid disease until well into my 40s. And so I just wonder, because we're talking about dry skin, if you notice if there's one cause, one thing, is it the toxins? Is it this? Is it that?
I know that you want me to say that there is, and I'm
well,
sorry
maybe there
to
isn't.
disappoint you, but there is no one.
There's not. Okay,
There's
so that's
no
the question.
one cause. It's not, otherwise someone would have the dry skin cure and it would be the cure for everyone. And it just doesn't work that way. So what everyone listening really needs to get is that every symptom your body has is the language of your body. It is speaking to you, telling you that it doesn't like something in your environment, whether it's thoughts you're thinking, beliefs that you hold, food you're eating, how you're sleeping or not, the sheets you're sleeping on, or the amount of sunlight you're getting or not getting. It is the language of the body. And we really most people want to, or we've been trained to abdicate deciphering the language of the body to the doctors, right? I don't know what's wrong. I don't feel good. I go to the doctor. They tell me what's wrong. They give me a pill. So much so that, I hear people all the time and they'll be like, oh, I'm sick. I need to go to the doctor. Right. It's interesting because although I came to this holistic way now, I was raised this way by my mom in New York City, middle of Manhattan. She was like, we called her Granola Jerry, because when my sister and I would get sick, she would give us echinacea and golden seal and make us sweat it out. But I thought I knew better than her when I went to medical school. I came back and told her, Mother, we heal with steel, So I was trained in the way of listening to my body and deciphering what it was wanting and needing and giving it and using natural treatments. But then I went off, thought I knew better, did that. And then we talked about where that got me. So then I went back. So I have this kind of insight into the way of living that, my skin's dry. What am I not eating, or what am I eating that's provoking that? How have I been feeling about myself? What thoughts have I been thinking that are disempowering? Because this is your powerhouse. So if you're thinking disempowering thoughts, boy, there's so many tangents. I love this topic because I think it's so important for everybody to get, because just like you're wanting to know the one thing, everybody else is, and I am the party pooper extraordinaire. It is no one thing. So what I'm saying.
Well, I was just going to say, that's the reason I asked the question.
Oh, okay.
Because I know that that's what people out there are thinking. I've been doing this long enough to know, and I do all the things every day and stuff. But I know that you just answered this big, whole complex question and addressed the thyroid and how it all works together. And I know that there's still people going, okay, yeah, great. But what's the one thing? And basically the answer is there is really no one thing. And rewind back a couple of minutes ago to get the reason why is why I wanted to ask that, because here we are talking about dry skin and how how we can get to the answers to it. And basically you really just have to listen to your body. You got to dive deep. You got to figure it out. There's not a great answer. You can't, like Jenny said, find an Instagram account with a great cream or a great pill. It just isn't there, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the thing about the dry skin is that dry skin never occurs in isolation. We humans get upset about the one symptom that's causing us the biggest problem at the moment, and we want the answer. But your body's talking to you in other ways. I promise you, right? It's not the only thing. And that's one of the first things I have people do is get honest. And in fact, in my book, the first chapter is about be honest. Be honest. Your weight is not the only problem you have. It may be your most pressing problem, but it's not the only problem. And so until you get honest about all the symptoms and you look at the picture of the symptoms, can you really start to hear what your body is saying? So thank you for saying that, because I know that everybody listening is like, no, but what's the one thing? No, but what's the one thing? And so really getting honest about the fact it's never just dry skin. And right. So then looking at what all the things are, and then you can start to decipher that language of the body and then give the body what it needs. Skin stops being dry.
Okay, I have another one. Maybe this one will have some answers, but it's definitely one of those that's also like, I'm knowing what the listeners are thinking. So while you're working with someone on trying to, get at and discover and address these root cause issues, are there any treatments for itchy, dry skin that you especially like? Like, in the meantime, here's what you should do to keep your skin more comfortable and healthy and things like that.
Yeah. So definitely avoid any chemicals on your skin, artificial coloring, scents, alcohols, any drying agents. So a lot of cosmetics and lotions have drying agents in them. Basically, if there's stuff in there you can't pronounce or you don't know what it is, you don't need to put it on your body. If it says fragrance, which is a euphemism for VOC, volatile organic compounds that are scents, you want to run far from that. Okay. So definitely in anything you put on your skin, which would be soap, lotion, but also anything you would wash your clothes in. So you want laundry detergent that has no dyes or perfumes, but even the chemicals in the laundry detergent may not smell or you can't see them, but they can be irritant. Dryer sheet, huge. That is just a paper towel that's been impregnated with chemicals, and you may as well just take it and rub it all over your body. Horrible for your skin. Get rid of all the artificial crap. Go to purely natural treatments is what I love. I love particularly if it's itchy, soaking in an oatmeal bath. There are some commercially prepared ones, but you can make your own and grind up your oatmeal in a a grinder, in a blender, and put it in your tub. There's something called a mustard bath, which I love. There's bentonite clay you can buy if your skin's particularly itchy, and there are products that have bentonite clay in it that you can use as a mask on your skin. So there are lots of natural treatments that you can use to soothe kind of acutely itchy skin, for sure. And then in terms of moisturizing, again, I prefer to go with natural treatments, sometimes even just plain as oils. You can use olive oil, although it doesn't smell that great. Coconut oil is fabulous. You can use primrose oil. I mean, there are all kinds of oils that have some omega-6s in them that you can use. But in the long run, it's not a solution, because your body, when it's constantly will absorb these inside, can actually cause more of a problem if you use too much of these in the long run, but in the short run, that can help. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you. Well, this has been really, really helpful, Dr. Kyrin. Thank you so much for being here with us. Do you have maybe like 3 main takeaways for our listeners before we sign off?
Sure. I'd say when it comes to thyroid and your skin, number one, and dry skin in particular, number one, it's not just one problem. It's really multifactorial. And to really have lasting improvement in that dry skin, you're going to need to figure out all the inputs and fix them to fix it holistically. So that would be number one. Number two is, I like you shared, test, don't guess. Get tests to see what your iodine levels are, what your thyroid's doing, what your cortisol's doing, what all these hormones are doing, what your toxicity levels are. Get food sensitivity tests. These are all things that can contribute to dry skin and low thyroid. So test, don't guess, and then address. And the third thing would be, I like that you brought that up. What are some things we can do in the meantime when our skin is just dry and flaky and itchy and irritated? Go for all natural treatments. Nature gave us the plants to heal us, and they speak a language that our body speaks that we don't really understand, but they do. And so finding the best natural treatments and using them, I think, is invaluable.
Awesome. Very helpful. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Kyrin.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful to be here.
For our listeners, you can find Dr. Kyrin at drkyrindunstonmd.com, and that's Kyrin and Dunston. And you've got a fun jumpstart coming up. Can you tell us about that? Sorry.
Sure. I'll also correct, the website is just KyrinDunstonMD.com. So it's KyrinDunstonMD.com. And yes, I have the Jumpstart Your Midlife Mojo 28-day challenge coming up. We have new ones coming up all the time. So you can go to jumpstartyourmidlifemojo.com to find out more and sign up.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for joining us today for another episode of Thyroid Refresh TV, where we give you the inspiration and information you need to make the best choices for your thyroid health. To receive a free Thyroid Thrivers grocery guide, you can visit us at thyroidrefresh.com. And to learn more about our new crash course, the Thyroid 30 Tune-Up, visit thyroidrefresh.com/tune-up. You do have the power to heal, and we have the tools.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast as much as we have, please leave us a review on iTunes. It would make our day, our week, our year. We would love it. Thank you so much for your listenership and your support. We're Danna and Ginny, wishing you the best of health, and see you guys next time. Thanks so much.
See you next time.